The Pit Press Podcast.
Welcome to the Road to the Pit, a high school journey. I'm your host, Ed Nunez. As always, I'm joined by my son, ProView producer and play-by-play announcer, also former St. Pius player, St. Pius assistant coach, part of the 2013 St. Pius championship staff, winning against the Albuquerque Academy, my son, Nick Nunez. Coach, welcome to the show. How are you?
Coach, sorry, Dad. I thought you were talking to Coach Mabrey.
No, talking to you, Coach. Talking to you.
Oh, thanks, Coach. Glad to be on. Glad to talk to Coach Mabrey about some Rio Rancho basketball.
Well, our very special guest is Coach Lori Mabrey, and she just returned to coaching last year. It's her second year back as the head coach of Rio Rancho High School. Coach, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you both for having me.
You know, Coach, Rio Rancho started out this year. We're going to talk about Rio Rancho and then your teams back at Kirtland Central. You know about the Road to the Pit, and you also had several Division I players. I really am interested in knowing more about Kirtland Central, your time out there. But tell us a little bit about the Rams. They started out like gangbusters, hit a little bit of divot in the road with three losses in a row. You've got Highland on Tuesday. Tell us a little bit about where the Rams are.
Well, we're very young. I'm pretty excited about us. We've got 2 8th graders, 2 9th graders, and 2 sophomores on the varsity that see a lot of extended minutes. So pretty much the team that we have this year is going to return next year and for several years coming. So that's kind of exciting. We did hit the ground running like gangbusters, but in full disclosure, we kind of had a little bit of a softer schedule, I would say, at the front runnings. And then part of me coming back to Rio Rancho is I wanted to recreate the Mel Otero tournament. Tony Otero has been a long time supporter of Rio Rancho athletics. His dad was the legendary Mel Otero, the official, and Tony owns the Dairy Queen, and he really does support all of Rio Rancho athletics. So when they hired me back at Rio Rancho, one of the things that I really wanted to do was to turn that tournament back into the Mel Otero. I think for a few years it had turned into the Rio Rancho Invite, and Tony was not involved at all. So that was one of my missions, was to get him fully back involved. And back in the day when Coach McIntyre ran that tournament, it was kind of a precursor or a front runner to what you might see at the state tournament. So I worked really, really hard in the off season to kind of spice up the tournament and get more competition there. I asked APS to send us some of their best teams. So fortunately we got El Dorado and Sandia as the APS representatives. Clovis has been in the tournament the entire time that the tournament's been in existence. And I was able to get rid of some of the smaller schools that maybe Rio Rancho had dominated in the past. And I just kind of want to turn that tournament back into like the precursor of what you might see at the state tournament. So we did kind of hit the skids a little bit with our 7-3 record, but in the semifinals of our own tournament, we played undefeated Sandia, and we played them very well. They're the only team left undefeated in girls 5A. So I was pleased with our young team's performance, and I think that we put out and expended a lot of energy in that semifinal. So the next day we had Clovis, and unfortunately we dropped that game as well. And they're another very good basketball team. So no shame in our loss there. And then right before Christmas, we dropped one to El Dorado. And of course, Bella Hines is phenomenal. So we've definitely had amped up our competition in the last 3 games, but that's what I want for our young kids, is to play the best competition they can.
It'll only make your teams better. You've always had that reputation of doing that. You're not going to take it. And even Bella Hines, I talked to Coach Carol Williams at the Rio Rancho tournament, and she mentioned about Bella scoring 53. Phenomenal effort. And I know you sent every kind of defense at her. When she gets going, she gets going. She's very hard to stop when she plays downhill. Coach Nunez, go ahead.
Coach, just want to touch on what you were talking about with the current version of the Rio Rancho Rams. You know, it was your first year last year. I think you guys started the season 5-1, finished, I think it was second or third in your district, got to the state tournament, played Hobbs in the first round. And as you've mentioned, Coach, you guys got off to a strong start. I watched a little bit of that Sandia game. I thought you guys battled them pretty early. But what's different about this Rio Rancho team this year as compared to last year, you being in your second year of the program? Just talk about the strides you guys have made.
Well, I think that girls basketball overall is it seems like it's down. The numbers are down a little bit in the Albuquerque area. So number one, I think we were fortunate in that we really worked the hallways, our staff, and we got 53 kids to try out, which allowed me to kind of cut a little bit deeper into our senior class, which unfortunately we had to let some of those kids go. But I think for the overall growth of our program, that was what was needed. We have some very good young basketball players that really want to be good basketball players, and they are the ones that are putting in the extra time, the extra hours, kind of going above and beyond what, you know, a normal practice is. And, you know, they just weren't going to be denied. And so I think that just tryouts kind of set the stage for us being a little bit more competitive within our own selves. And we've had some great practices. We didn't play all Christmas break. Our last game was December 23rd, so we're itching to play. And we could come out flat. You never know, because we've had about 14 straight practices and we're ready to play. But I just think that we needed to kind of, I don't know, maybe make ourselves a little more competitive within. And we have been able to do that. Our coaching staff's been really good at creating stuff that makes our kids compete every single day. And I think once you have kids that are competing every single day just for playing time, that kind of helps your success a little bit.
What you see sometimes is kids being complacent and not competing, and I think that we always, it's this corny saying. It's really not, though. Iron sharpens iron. If I'm somebody, I played, I started. Coach Nunez started at St. Pius. You started, and I sometimes maybe I took that for granted. But if I wasn't starting, and it was rare that I didn't, I would be upset. And okay, well, I've got to buckle down. So I think those competitive things only make people better. And I know, in talking to Coach Williams, you're excited about some young players in your program coming up through the 8th grade ranks. So, Coach Williams said you're building a program. She's always so happy to be back. I had a long talk with her, and she's so happy to be back with your team. I'm going to ask you about your early days, though, at Kirtland Central. Then I'll turn it back over to Coach Nunez. Tell us a little bit about, you won titles as a player and as a coach. Is that right?
Yes.
Tell us about that, because you know what, Coach? We talk about the road to the pit. And back then, in those days, I don't know that the girls were playing at the pit for the champ. Tell us about that, because that's really important to let you played with, I believe Kara Pretty. Is that right? You played with, did you play with Kara?
So Kara was a little bit older than me, but definitely a mentor of mine. And Coach Nunez, you'll appreciate this. Ryan Myers, your head coach, his mom, Lori Givens, is an ex-Kirtland Bronco, and she is the very first person that actually taught me how to shoot a good, solid set shot. She came over to my house. I didn't have a paved driveway. Kirtland's out there in the middle of nowhere, and I had a dirt road and a dirt driveway, and my dad welded a basket for me. It was regulation, and Lori Givens, Ryan Myers' mom, is actually the very first person that came over and started to help me. And she played with Kara Pretty. Those girls were about 3 years older than me, Ed, but I was class of 84, 85, and I graduated in 86. I was pretty fortunate because the Kirtland dynasty was kind of already rolling a little bit. I think I was part of state championship number 4, number 5, and number 6. And I remember as a player, my senior year, number 6 was the toughest one for me personally. I remember breaking out in hives actually at just the stress of not letting our team lose on our watch, on the class of 86's watch. And they won again in 87. And I remember all those girls quite well also because I played with those kids. They were juniors on our team. And then the class of 88 was actually the first team that lost that string of 8, which was a national record at the time. It has since been tied, but at the time, there was no other girls basketball program in the entire nation that had won 8 straight state championships. And it was a pretty special, I didn't realize, I just thought wins happened easily. I thought state titles happened easily. I just kind of lucked into it because my dad had a job in Kirtland and the girls basketball team was pretty good. And I started out as a cheerleader and I hated that. And my parents hated that for me also. So I took up basketball, started playing the boys on the playground in 6th grade. And basically, in 7th grade, I was like, I'm going to be a basketball player. And I started to take it pretty seriously at that point in time.
A quick question here. Now, we mentioned Road to the Pit. Now, you mentioned back then the girls didn't get to play in the pit, and there's a lot of strides. Yeah. Of course, I talked to Coach Cindy Roybal, who's at Pewaukee, and I had her on the sports desk, and she was mentioning about all the strides the girls have made now. They've made tremendous ones. But talk a little bit about where the state championships were played for girls back then. Talk a little bit about that.
Well, they were played in local high schools. I've got pictures of myself from those years playing at Albuquerque High, playing at Sandia's gyms, and those would be sellout games. And then the old Kirtland gym with the old wooden bleachers was a pretty special place. I don't know if you guys have ever been up to the Kirtland Arena now, but I say that us Lady Broncos built that house for the kids that are there today. I mean, that's a pretty special arena. That's not one that the teams that won 8 straight in a row played at. We played in the old gym, which is now the JV gym, if you will. That's where the JV and the C team practices, but it's a darn good court. I'm trying to remember, Ed, when the first girls pit game was, and I want to say that it was like probably 96 or a little bit after that. It took a long time for the girls to get into the pit.
They belong there, and it's a good thing that they are there. One more quick question, and then I'll turn it over to Coach Nunez. You also won as a coach there, right? You won titles as a coach. How many titles did you win as a coach?
I was fortunate to be part of 4 more. So when I finally left Kirtland, I graduated from Eastern New Mexico. That's where I played college basketball. And I went back and coached my first 5 years of coaching at Kirtland Central, my hometown. And we won 4 out of the 5, which was incredible. Pewaukee with Coach Matt Martinez beat us on a buzzer beater to get that one elusive one that slipped away.
Coach, I don't know, I'm going to turn this over to Coach Nunez here in a second. I don't know that record is given the just due. It's talked about enough. I remember hearing those things about 8 straight, but gosh, I don't know that that's talked about enough. What an incredible program Kirtland Central had, a powerhouse. Coach Nunez, I know you wanted to ask Coach Mabrey some other questions.
Yeah, Coach, just wanted to talk to you about your coaching career as it transitioned to the Rio Rancho and Albuquerque metro area. If I'm not mistaken, you went to coach at Rio Rancho as an assistant under Coach McIntyre, were there for a few years, and then took over at Cibola from 2005 to 2021. So just kind of walk us through your career after Kirtland.
So after my 5 years at Kirtland, that's when Rio Rancho High School was initially built. That was when Intel came in and built this amazing high school. And Bobby McIntyre, who's actually my godfather and I'm still very, very close with today, and he still scouts my teams, and we still talk a lot of basketball to this very day. Bobby McIntyre, I used to do basketball camps way back when I was a Kirtland athlete, and then through college with my Kirtland coaches, we'd go out to Moriarty and several other places throughout New Mexico, but Moriarty was one of the stops we made annually, and we would do basketball camps. So I got to know Coach McIntyre through our basketball camps. And so when the high school opened at Rio Rancho, Coach McIntyre asked me to come on board. He also brought Eddie Bacalini from Albuquerque Academy. I mean, it was a pretty special coaching crew initially, and I learned a lot of different things from Coach McIntyre. I spent 8 years with him at Rio Rancho High School when it first opened. And then, so I was an assistant for 13 years, which is a long time. And I wasn't really itching to be a head coach, really. I finally got the bug a little bit later in life, and fate just kind of opened up the doors at Cibola for me. Phil Schreier, I went to college with his son, Sean, at Eastern New Mexico. And I got to meet Phil through Sean. And then the Cibola job kind of opened up, and I thought, what the heck, let me just throw my name in the hat. And I spent 16 years at at Cibola. And then I stepped down for all of a year, and Rio Rancho opened up, and I told my husband, hey, I think I got a good shot at this job. I think it'd be great for me to end my career there. We talked about it. And so, yeah, this is my second year back at Rio Rancho High.
Go ahead, Coach.
Just wanted to ask you, Coach, I'm sure you have some questions about this too, but your run at Cibola, Coach, you touched on it just a little bit, 2005 to 2021. I think you guys made 5 state championships in that time frame that you were there. So just talk about the run that you had, some of the players that you coached. You mentioned them to us, Amber Battle, Karina Chapman, Amaya Brown, the list goes on. So just talk about your run, Coach.
Well, that was one of the reasons I wanted the job at Cibola was as an assistant at Rio Rancho, I just saw the talent that they had. And there was a young lady, and I didn't even tell you guys this earlier, but there was a young lady named Sky Barnett, an incredible young athlete. And she was just kicking our JV's butt at Rio Rancho. And so when the job opened, I was like, I want an opportunity to coach that young lady. So she was my very first Division I signed athlete. Sky went on to play at Pepperdine and then coached at Pepperdine. Just an incredibly humble, hardworking human being. I just can't say enough about Sky. She's just an incredible person. And then with her group, we won the very first ever district title at Cibola. I won't get the years right. I'm bad at calendars like that, but we won our very first district title with that group. And then shortly after, Amber Battle came in as a freshman. We couldn't play 8th graders up at that point in time. Amber was a special athlete all on her own. And then it just seemed like for a long, long time, I just had incredible athletes come through the doors at Cibola. Karina Chapman went on to play at Boston College. Kristen Dirth was just this 6'2" Arabian horse rider, kind of a geeky sort of a girl, but I could see that there was a basketball player in there. She went on to play at Seattle. Cavi Brown and Amaya Brown, who are not related, even though they have the same last name. 2 incredibly talented young women, and just so many great role players there. I was just so blessed with so much talent at that school, and I really enjoyed my time at Cibola.
You know, Coach Nunez is going to ask you about your championship there at Cibola here in a minute, but I wanted to tell you about Coach McIntyre. There's a story, he went to St. Pius with my older brother, My brother played in 75, and Coach McIntyre was unable to play as a senior, as he told you about, was he had transferred to New Mexico military and then came back to Pius as a senior. And Coach Mac in his backyard had a full court. So my brother would take me over there to play when I was younger. And, we'd play and with his, 8 brothers, he has a huge family. I know you know that. There's a lot of McIntyres. And then it was funny when I reffed his games and he'd get after me a little bit. You got after me a little bit, but I never minded that because it's part of the game. You're fighting for your kids. I don't think you and I ever had, you could get on me, but I mean, we never left it on the court or, we left it there. We never had any problems after, I understood where, and Bobby was passionate too, man. Bobby was very passionate about defending Moriarty. I recall his games up there, or even when he started at Rio Rancho. You mentioned Phil Schreier, rest in peace. I still miss the guy. Him and I had gotten to be very good friends. He'd give me books, text me about whatever topic was the politics, Dallas Cowboys, Dallas Lakers, UNM Lobos. Ed, what do you think about a random thought? And I miss, I love Phil. I'd say that unabashedly. I love that guy, man. I really did. And when I found out the news he had passed, I about came out of my chair. I just talked to him. I couldn't believe it. So, I could still hear him too, just about, Ed, what do you think about this? About anything. So he gave you a chance because I know knowing Coach Schreier, he believed in you. There's a reason why he gave you a chance, and it was a darn good fit. You earned that job. There's no doubt about it. And just knowing what the kind of character Ray Rodriguez, he picked Ray Rodriguez and others too. Ray and I, in fact, I still live across the street from where Ray grew up, still in the district. Ray and I are like brothers. Ray and I are very close friends. So, you were part of a good Cibola staff there, and I had to mention those things there because they brought back a lot of memories when Bobby couldn't play. That hurt St. Pius because he would have helped him. Bobby was a heck of a shooter, man. Lefty, he was a good player. He would have really helped. He would have helped St. Pius for sure that year. And the NMAA's rules were much more stringent then than they are now. Much more stringent. Much more stringent. Coach Nunez, I know you wanted to ask Coach Mabrey about her championship runs. And Coach, you had a couple of close ones at Cibola, a real couple of close ones, but I know Coach Nunez wanted to ask you more about it.
Yeah, Coach, the championship year, 2015, you guys defeated La Cueva in the championship, 58-46. You guys had a lot of close games that year. I was going back on Max Preps looking at the schedule, and it seems like that was the year that the rivalry with Volcano Vista kind of really started in a lot of ways. So kind of just talk a little bit about that.
Well, I probably remember the ones that got away more than the one that we actually won. But I will say this about that 2015 team. Yes, they had some close games. I think they were 28-2. But they won everything they were supposed to win. They were Metro champs. They were district champs. They were state champs. They are the only team in the history of Cibola that has ever won a girls basketball title. And I'm going to go out on a limb and say that that's probably going to last for a really, really long time. When they won it all, I wanted to get those girls some rings. Because I just felt like they earned those rings. I didn't want their parents to have to come out of pocket and get those rings. And I reached out to a bunch of community members, people that I had never leaned on before, and said, hey, can you help us out? And I pretty much raised $4,000 for those kids to get their rings for free. And the one thing that really sticks out in my mind, and probably the reason they won it all, is they had a chant. That team had a chant, and it's engraved inside my ring, and it's engraved inside every single girl's ring. But we would come out, see whose house, see house, see house, see house. And so inside everybody's ring, it says See House 2015 and the date that we won in the pit. And I don't think that I realized just how special that team was until they actually got in a room, and girls are kind of fickle, they want these shoes are too wide, these shoes are too narrow, I want this color, this doesn't fit, that doesn't fit. Girls are very much into that kind of stuff. And when we got into the room to pick those rings, like literally the entire team picked the same ring. It was done in less than 5 minutes. They all agreed on the engraving on the inside. And I was like, okay, that's why this particular group was able to get it done.
special group. And, you mentioned Amber Battle, and of course her dad, Bruce Battle, the former New Mexico. I played some ball against Bruce, man. Wasn't on his level, but Bruce didn't get to finish with UNM. There was an eligibility. Something happened. I'm telling you, that guy might have gone pro. That's how good he was.
Yeah.
6'5", rangy, could shoot, strong. So, you mentioned Amber Battle. Then you mentioned there's all the ones you mentioned. Cassandra Harris had a drop step move that was nasty. That move was very successful, and she knew how to use her body to gain space down there without fouling. It looked like an offensive foul, but she cleared space. I really liked watching her play. But I also remember when Amaya Brown and Kaviana Brown were on the same team, and you couldn't bring the ball up the floor against them without them stealing. It was very tough. And, of course, Amaya Brown, the daughter of Greg Brown and Tina DeFries Dunn, who was a heck of an athlete herself at Hobbs, and people may forget that. And, of course, her uncle Chris Dunn, the former star at Hobbs, and Kaviana Brown, the daughter of Ronell Brown, who back in the day, believe me, man, player of the year in football in 1984, and just member of the state championship team in 1984 at Albuquerque High basketball. And I played a lot of ball with him and against him. And believe me, every time I got a rebound, I got an elbow to the back every single time. And, I got used to it because that's just the way the guy played, right? So I just like, here it comes, boom, bowed my back every single time. That guy was a hit. So you mentioned some of the Karina Chapman, long distance shooter. All these names that you told us about, those were some excellent Cibola rosters. There's no doubt.
Yeah, those are incredible kids. I'm so blessed and so fortunate because I actually still have a relationship with every single one of those young ladies. And I would be remiss not to mention Zalika Dyson. Zalika was a lot like Kristen Durst, just she was 6'3", gangly, kind of just sort of nerdy, had no skills to begin with, but she kind of grew into her big old body, and she ended up at University of Houston, and I think right now she's selling whiskey in Scotland. All of those girls, just incredible, gifted athleticism. Buster always teases me that, you got DNA on your team. Like when you talk about Amaya Brown, her dad was an amazing athlete, and Amber Battle, obviously her dad was an amazing athlete. It's a little easier to coach kids that have that kind of DNA for sure.
There's no question about it. Coach Nunez, go ahead. I know we got a couple minutes left with Coach Mabrey, but go ahead.
Coach, it's the Road to the Pit. That's the name of the podcast. I want to talk to you about the team's upcoming schedule. I think your Road to the Pit, Coach, it really will go through your district. You got Volcano Vista, you got Cleveland, you got Atrisco Heritage, and you got Cibola. Talk about your Road to the Pit this year and how you guys are going to get there.
Well, our Road to the Pit is, you're absolutely right. It's going to go through our district. And yes, Volcano is going to be one of those juggernauts that we're going to have to get through. And then Cleveland, we're going to have to be ready to play them each and every time. We have played Cleveland once already in the Capital Tournament, and we played well, and we were able to get out of there with a win. But Volcano's obviously a very good basketball team, very well coached, got a very good group of girls themselves. But I like our team. I like how hard we're working. As young as we are, we have a little bit of moxie to us. We're not going to back down from people. We're going to give it our very best effort. And I don't think that we're going to be an easy out. I think that we have a legitimate shot at playing for a district title. We came in second last year, which was a bit of a surprise to maybe some people, maybe not me as much, but I think we have a legitimate shot at it. Obviously, we're going to have to play extremely well, but I like our team and I like our chances, and we're going to continue to improve.
Coach, one of the things that I can always count on when I was reffing your game, or you also, when your year off, you did some broadcasting with us. You were a color commentator, and we had a lot of fun working together. We really did. But I could always count when you were coaching, even if you were up, timeout. Even if you're up or down, timeout. You wanted to work on something. You wanted to drop a play and see how they executed. And I'm sure you're still doing that. Those little things matter. execution. It matters. The practices that you've had, the 14 you said, I'm sure the girls are anxious to play. You can only practice against each other so much, and you want to get out there. You mentioned Volcano Vista. I've seen him, and Lisa Villarreal is a Hall of Fame coach, man. He won 5 titles. But I've seen them, and I don't mean this in any other way. Their guards probably aren't as dynamic as they've been in the past. I mean, when you have Bates and Kennedy and Chavez, I mean, that's a great group to have. They're still very formidable. They're still very good. They've got TT Hill, who's, man, she's improved her outside shot, has improved her ball handling, and she's a force to be reckoned with. I want to ask you this before we let you go here. Bella Hines at 53. Now, you've been around the game a long time, and on both sides of the ball. You've seen, not just on the girls' side, you've seen on the boys' side, you've seen college, you've seen a lot of basketball, period. She's got her 40th offer in the defending champion LSU Tigers just offered her a scholarship, 40 D1 offers. What was it you saw out of her game? You've been watching her for a long time, coming up from the AAU ranks. What is it you saw against your team that night when she had 53?
Well, she's a nightmare for anyone that has to face her. I think she could play some boys teams and go off for 40 and 50 points. I really do. She's an incredible scorer. She scores from everywhere. She can slice and dice you. She's got a mid-range game. She's got a 3-point game. She can pick apart gimmick defenses. Like, she is probably the most complete offensive basketball player I've probably ever seen in my coaching career. And I think all of her offers are definitely legitimate. We played her straight up man-to-man, which I told our girls, if she slices and dices us to death, we're running them in practice. We are going to be in the help lane. And she got through us a couple times, no doubt. But she just killed us from the 3. And I've always been a coach that kind of packs it in. And if you're good enough to beat us from the 3, then so be it. And usually in girls basketball, that doesn't typically happen. But she did it. She did it. She just flat out outshot us. And yeah, she's an incredible basketball player. And it'll be kind of like exciting to see where she ends up. And I'm a fan of hers. I'll follow her throughout college because she's just an incredible talent.
Only a junior, by the way. And,
Yeah.
she had 53 points. Shioma Holyfield, who's improved 100%, had 4 of the 57. So what an incredible, for you to say that, as many years as you've been around the game, man, that is real telling, because you've seen a lot of players on the and you think she can go get 40 on the guys. That would be interesting to see. Of course, with guys with their egos would think we'll shut her down, and she'd get hers on them too, as you said. Coach, Nunez, you got any follow-up questions? One more for Coach Mabrey?
That's all I had, Coach. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Coach Lori Mabrey, our guest here on the Road to the Pit, a high school journey. We sure appreciate it. We wish you the best of luck the rest of the year, and we'll definitely catch up down the way with you for sure.
Appreciate it. Hey, good luck to you, Coach Nunez, and we will hopefully see each other at the pit.
Absolutely, Coach. Thank you.
Take care, Coach. Thank you.